Hey everyone, this is Annalise here with some more tips on how to Excel, and today I wanted to go over something cool you can make in Excel outside of kind of your normal usage. And I think the way this started is I was trying to challenge myself with some new programming things or programming activities, and one of the things I came up with was can I make an interactive game in Google Sheets or the spreadsheet editor of your choice that feels, interactive to a user and feels like something people would be, not that it is an app, but it could almost feel like one. So this started a 20 to 30 hour project, and you don't have to create something exactly like this, but I think it's something interesting to play around with. I definitely learned a lot when making this, so I just wanted to share those learnings with all of you guys, and I might end up doing kind of a quick tutorial series on how to piece this together for yourself, or how to use this sort of as a template for whatever you do want to make. I used Google Sheets because I wanted to make it easily accessible to people. So maybe you are in some sort of online community, or you're in a club. This might be something kind of cool to put together for that purpose. Realistically speaking, to avoid conflict with overwriting data, you'd probably want either your users to have a local copy of this, so you're not all editing the same one, because that gets really messy and dangerous data-wise. Or, best case scenario, I probably would have started this in Excel, in which case, I would just email it out as an attachment to people. But Google Sheets was the option I chose this time. And the reason I make the differentiation here is because if you're not familiar, Excel uses Visual Basic for application, and that is a completely different programming language than is used in Google Sheets. They use the Google Apps script, which is basically JavaScript. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the game. So this episode, or this video here, is really just showing you the basic mechanics of it, and then like I said, I'll try to post some other videos going into how to create various pieces of this. So we have a dashboard here at the start. We have some all-time scores. Nothing's really displayed here yet because I've just cleansed the data from the game, so right now there's no players who have been registered. And under your personal high scores, it says you have to log in or create an account. So for the purposes of this, let's get cracking. I'm going to make an account with my name, Annalise. If I say I'm a returning player, we're going to get a pop-up alert that says no one's been found with that name, we have to fix or select new player. So we'll select new player. Also, if I were to try to add Annalise again, we would get an error that says that player already exists. Alright, so notice that this is updated. It says we have no high score yet. So first thing we're going to do, and just to demonstrate actually, if I said load game right now, you'll see we have 3 save slots and none of them are busy, or none of them have been filled. So let's start a new game. Alright, so first to start here, we have a budget we get to allocate. So we have a certain amount of revenue, and technically it's not revenue yet, this would be capital or principal. But throughout the game it's going to be referred to as revenue. And there's 2 different breakdowns. There's capital and operational. Now these terms aren't being used necessarily by the book, but in this game what I'm saying is a capital investment is, and again this isn't really correct, but in here it's a consumable good, or something we're going to purchase and it's going to expire. Operational, in this case, I'm talking about the actual workforce. These are reoccurring charges. And so we have to differentiate how to split up this money. I'm actually just going to leave it 50-50 to start, which means we're going to get $75 to spend on consumable goods and $10 to spend on hiring people. One other thing I want to point out is we have a round indicator. We're currently in round 1, and this is really only important for leaderboard kind of things, saying you reached this point or this status in this round. Alright, so we come to our supplies menu. Like any kind of good tycoon game, this is where we're going to buy out everything we need. I've painstakingly coded all these tiny little up-down arrow. They all run a different piece of code. Some of them increment by 1, some increment by 25, I believe, are the differentiations I chose. So just to demonstrate, and we can go up and down, and something to always check, right, is you never want to let someone enter something lower than the lowest number or higher than the highest. So if we hit down again, nothing's going to happen. That's just important to note because sometimes, people hacking video games, stuff like that, if they go out of bounds, it'll actually flip it so that the lowest number, if you try to enter like -1, it'll actually create the highest value that that data type could store. So just to note, something you want to check for is data validation, always very important. Alright, so I was just kind of clicking around, but to demonstrate again, this is our base, this is what we started with, and this tells us how much we spent. Green means we're still good to go. If I were to purchase, let's say 50,000 cups, and you can also type it in because if you play the game for a long time, you start getting into big numbers. So notice we're now in the red. We have overspent our allocated capital. So I'm going to just enter some default values here just to get things cracking. And okay, I think okay, so we're still in the green, we're still good there. We still have $10 per hour to spend on help. So we could hire the basic barista, mediocre, or master. If we hire the master barista, it's going to say we can't afford them. So obviously our only option here to start is the basic barista. Now if you had changed your budgeting strategy in the beginning, you could have hired the master barista potentially from the start. Actually, you couldn't have because they're 8-hour work days is the assumption. So 20 by 8 gives us 160, and our entry, I think round 1, you get $150 to spend. So best case, you could have hired mediocre, and you might not know what the difference is yet, but I will show you in a second. One other thing to point out, in red here I have the extension. Extension really just means quantity times the unit price, so the extension here is $10. The extension for 100 cups at 25 cents per cup gives us $25, and this just helps us figure out where we're spending our money. One last point here is pricing. I think this also goes up by 25 cents a piece. We get to decide how much we want to charge for a cup of coffee. If I didn't mention it earlier, I'm realizing now that I have been missed. This is a coffee tycoon game. I should also clarify, I don't actually drink coffee. I did look some of this information up, so it might be 50% accurate, but if you are a coffee drinker, I am not claiming that this is the Bible of coffee tycoons. But anyhow, we get to set how much we want to charge for it. I'm not going to go into all the math in this video, but basically the pricing affects two different things in the game. One, it affects how likely someone is to want to buy the coffee. Obviously, the higher you make it, the less someone's likely to purchase. And the other point is there's some math in the background that calculates how satisfied customers are. The further your price is away from what I've set as the ideal price point for this cup of coffee, the further away you are from that, the benefits in terms of satisfaction go down. So if you have a really high price cup of coffee, your happy customers aren't going to be as happy, and that sort of thing. Anyway, we're getting too much into it, so let's just purchase our supplies here. And notice that this is all clearing out, it's going down to 0. The price will remain the same. I don't zero that out because you might want to use that round to round as constant. But now we see our inventory, and this shows us what we have all together. If we were playing multiple rounds, you would see not just 100, but it would be 100 added to whatever the previous value left in your inventory was. I'm going to demonstrate one quick error just to show you that it's being handled. So obviously you wouldn't do this, but I've left this all editable so I can demonstrate some things. So we had one basic barista hired. I have changed that to 0. If we try to move onward with the game, we're going to get a warning that says, hey, you don't have anyone hired. Basically, if we try to open up shop, we're going to not be able to sell any coffee. So we could say yes and just fail epically, or we could go back to the supplies page and hire people. I'm just going to click X because all I'm going to do is change that back to 1. The other thing to point out here is I have a series of notes. You don't have to read them, but if you're not familiar with the math that I'm using in the editor, which only I'm really familiar with, these might help you decide ratios for things. So it tells you, for instance, how much 1 pound, and that's the unit I've chosen here, how much 1 pound of coffee beans is going to produce in terms of cups. And cups of coffee is really the metric of the game. How many cups are you selling? Same thing for milk. It gives you averages for how much cream and sugar people prefer. And one quick note there, these first 3 items, cups, coffee, beans, and milk, I've deemed essential to make a cup of coffee. Someone told me you don't need milk for coffee, and as a non-coffee drinker, I will have to take their word for it, but I was too far in the game to change it. So some liquid here. It doesn't have to be milk, I guess. So these are all essential. We can't make a cup of coffee without it. So if we run out of milk, we can make no more cups of coffee. However, cream and sugar I've deemed as non-essential, but people appreciate them. So if we run out of cream, it's not going to stop us from making cups of coffee, but it will make people unhappy. The other point here is it tells you the rates at which baristas on the different levels produce cups of coffee. So the basic produces a cup of coffee in 6 minutes. If we're doing some hot math here, that's 10 cups of coffee an hour. Over the course of an 8-hour workday, that's 80 cups. Mediocre barista, 4 minutes, that's 15 cups an hour. Times 8 gives us, oh dear, I should have looked this up before. Oh, it's 120. Okay, I can do math, it's fine. And the master barista, he can do a cup in 2 minutes. He is superb, so he can do 30 cups in an hour over the course of an 8-hour workday. That's 240 cups. This is important because if I used to have it set so he could only make, I think, 20 an hour, and this guy could make 12 an hour. So it was actually more economically feasible for you to hire 2 basic baristas than 1 master barista. Based on the finances and the rates. So I had to adjust that. I think that's everything on this page that's immediately important. So I'm going to proceed to the cafe. Alright, so we have a little cafe shop here. And right now nothing is displaying except the base rating that you're initialized to is 50. So over the course of the game, you're trying to get up to 100% satisfaction, everyone's happy. And I do have checks, so you can't exceed 100 and you can't go lower than 0. So now what we're going to do is open the cafe. And there's some math in the background that runs to kind of randomly generate the amount of customers you get based on your capacity, so basically based on how many people you're able to support based on who's working. So again, our maximum today would have been what was it, 80 cups, right, for 1 basic barista. So it's based off that and the price. Notice that the other thing I've added into the game recently was like a leaderboard. So that the all-time high score, we just set it. We're also the only player in the game right now, so every high score we set is going to be an all-time high score. But if we were playing against other people, I do have it set up so that if you hit your own high score, it'll say new personal high score, and if you get the highest one in the leaderboard, then you'll get this other message here. So we say okay, and this gives us and we also set a high score for satisfaction. The other one was for revenue. Sorry, I clicked off it too fast. But we get some quick statistics. So this shows us how many customers we had and how many cups we sold. And I used I think I just guessed, so I said like the average customer buys 1.25 cups of coffee, and what I meant by that is I assume most people probably just buy 1 cup, but then every like 4th person or so they buy 2 cups, and either buying it for a coworker or a friend. So these are related, but that was kind of just a guess. So we didn't have anyone not serve because we didn't run out of supplies, which is good. Based on the price per cup, we have a revenue of $192. And revenue, again, just a quick financial lesson, not the same as profit. Profit is revenue minus the cost, and the way this game works is we take the cost out at the beginning of the round, so this is just pure revenue right now. This tells us the breakdown of supplies that we consumed this round. Satisfaction, we noticed that it went up 4.22, which is pretty good. And then we get some randomly generated reviews from an array I have in the back end. So I think that's most of this here. What I'm going to do for now is let's save the game. So notice again, we used to have, we have all these save slots. We have 3 different ones. They're all empty. So now what we're going to do is save it into one of these slots. Just to demonstrate real quick data validation. If we entered like A, it's going to be an invalid entry, right? So it's going to be a problem. But I am going to, and let me go back. The code is a little bit different based on where you save from. So let me go back to our cafe and let me save from here. Okay, so if we save game, I'm going to do the same thing as last time, but I'm actually going to do it correctly this time. So I'll say save slot 1. Alright, and data was successfully saved. This is just a quick overview of what we have saved, but in addition to this is just supposed to help you identify and remember, like, oh yeah, this is the game where I have this much money, or I'm in this round or whatever. But what also gets saved is your inventory, so the number of any supplies that you've saved, number of any employees that you currently have hired, and I think 1 or 2 other things. And I should also note that at the end of your day here, or at the cafe, your employees are temporarily fired, so they are kind of consumable in that way. Alright, so we've saved our data, and now we're going to go and start round, I think we're on round 3 by now, I forget. Oh, actually, sorry, I saved it twice, and that's why we're on round 3, we're technically on round 2. Like I said, it's a little bit buggy still, but so now we have $192 to allocate, and if we can go up and down, and this will adjust it by 5%. I noticed that when you click one, it also adjusts the other. We wouldn't want to have it where they don't equal 100, so I'll just click through a little quicker this time. I'm just kind of guessing here. Okay. Oh, actually, let me make a shortage somewhere so we can see some bad reviews. Okay. Let's add an additional, some coffee beans. Okay. Right, and I'll up the price a little bit. Okay. And so I think we should be able to trigger a shortage this round. So a gallon of milk, right, it produces 16 cups, 3 by 16 is 48. One basic barista, he makes 80 cups, or he can produce 80 cups. Hopefully a random integer of that will be greater than 48, so we can see what happens when someone doesn't get what they asked for. Alright, so notice this time, because we ran out of one of our core supplies, we do have customers who were not able to be served. Notice our satisfaction dropped slightly. It went down by 2.63. And then we got one of the reviews says that they couldn't take my order. So the reviews here aren't supposed to just be, fun or whatever. They're supposed to indicate what your problem might be in case you couldn't figure it out. Another way we could see it is if we checked our inventory, we'd see we have 0 milk right now. But this is just randomly generated, and I'll go into how to randomly generate comments like this in a different video. Alright, again, we could save and all that, or we could just start the next round. I think this is a pretty decent overview for now. But one other thing, we could resave our data, save in slot 2, and then for no apparent reason, let's clear slot 1. Alright, so we cleared data from slot 1 if we wanted to open that back up, and then if at some point in time we wanted to, and I can just show you if we start new game, and again, starting a new game doesn't automatically put it in a save slot, you have to manually save it there. But notice that all this has been initialized, we're back on round 1. What we could do is go here, we could load data from slot 2. Alright, now data has been loaded, and now we can start back off right from where we left off. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to this game. I think it's kind of a good challenge for people who are trying to get a little bit more hands-on. This uses a number of formulas. It also uses buttons, and the only way I've found that you can really successfully do buttons is really gross. You have to go to Insert Drawing to have something clickable here, and then once you have the drawing in there, you can assign a script. And speaking of scripts, that's the other part. If you're not familiar, under Extensions, under App Script, you will be able to put all the code in. So I think this took me a little over 1,000 lines, and to be fair, a good bit of it is repetitive code because I have things set up a little weird, and I didn't always go back and make it more efficient. So hopefully I will be back soon with another video breaking down at least one piece of this, and thanks for watching.